Great, thank you. Welcome everybody to the Road to HR Tech. This is going to be such a fun, exciting series. I am so excited to do this, and I'm really excited to welcome our very first guest star, Craig Fisher. Before we get to introductions, I want to tee this up a little bit. Hopefully you've been seeing a little bit of promotional stuff, some of the social stuff we've been putting out there to explain. But just to break it down, this is hosted by Symphony Talent. I will be your host, your MC, Jess Von Bank, and we're breaking down the employee experience life cycle from now until HR Tech, the big conference in Vegas again this year in October. We're breaking down the employee experience into really three segments, starting with recruitment marketing, through candidate management, on through employee experience and employee engagement. And recruitment marketing starts, of course, at the very tip top of the funnel, which is employer branding. We'll get into that in a second. And that's why my very first special guest expert had to be none other than Craig Fisher himself. So again, I'm Jess Von Bank. Thank you everybody for joining. We're going to dive into employer branding in an age of authenticity and transparency. And Craig, would you please explain why I had you on the show, who you are?
Absolutely. So thanks for having me, Jess. I appreciate it. Thank you, Symphony Talent, and thanks for everybody tuning in today. I'm Craig Fisher, and I have held the title of Head of Employer Brand and Recruitment Marketing at CA Technologies for the last couple of years. I am there by way of Allegis Global Solutions, where I am the head of global marketing, and I get a whole lot of license and free rein to experiment with how employer branding, employee engagement, and recruitment marketing works in various situations for various countries and regions, and how to really target specific audiences to put butts in seats. I've been consulting in this space on employer branding since 2009, and if that's not enough, I literally got my job because I came up on page 1 of Google for a search for employer branding strategist.
That's exactly my point. Nobody knows branding better than Craig Fisher. And 2009 is there's something to be said for that, because employer branding really sort of came to life with social and sort of the advent of the digital age and all of this authenticity and easy access to information, including for job seekers seeking out employers online. That's all sort of come about in the last 10 years. So that's why employment branding matters. And let's maybe start with that. When we think about employer branding, it's not a new concept, and it's definitely become table stakes, but the idea is, employers are trying to engage, trying to find, number one, and then engage and nurture job seekers. Job seekers are online, they're on social. They may not be aware of an employer, let alone if they belong there. And so the idea is to get your brand out there and how you do that. That's the whole concept of employer branding. But you tell me why employment branding matters and why it truly is table stakes.
So I can tell you that I've worked with companies of all sizes, right? I've worked directly with LinkedIn, for instance, to help them do some of this employer branding stuff. I've worked with large financial companies. I've worked with tiny little hungry startups. And they all have the same issue. They all have to compete with someone like Google for the best engineers in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you do that? And what if you're a boring brand? What if you're a bank, right? There's lots of reasons that you need to showcase your company's culture or unique value proposition to better attract those people, because just putting a cool job description out there and having a ping pong table, not good enough anymore. You've got to have something that makes you unique, that people will remember, that is authentic enough that people can buy into. Because if you ever sit with an engineer, especially one on the West Coast, and watch them just delete their LinkedIn messages, they get 10 an hour from recruiters, and they don't want to talk to you. So if you're a good employer and you've got a great culture and some good reason for them to come work for you, other than you just need to create your product, right? Well, show it off.
That's a great point, that your brand has to be competitive. You are competing for for highly sought after job seekers and hard to fill roles and market. But even beyond having a competitive employer brand, you need to have a brand, and you need to go out and find and target candidates as personas. And I think the reason for that is because we've gotten spoiled. We hear a lot about the consumer candidate these days. The idea that we are spending all of this time online and information is being served up to us. Our search history is out there. We leave a digital footprint everywhere we go. And brands, not just employer brands, consumer brands are finding us and targeting us and serving up relevant information. So when you think about that concept, sort of just that general digital, social, retargeting, personalization concept of what we experience as consumers, as people spending time online, what does that mean for employers and how they think about their strategy of reaching out and engaging?
Yeah, so consumers expect this now, right? And job seekers are starting to expect it too. And there's no reason that you can't do this. If you put something out in the world compelling enough to get a job seeker to click through to your landing page or your careers site, there's no reason that they shouldn't see some advertisements for your jobs when they bounce around the rest of the internet, right? I mean, when you go to Amazon to look for toilet paper that you're going to buy, well, I don't know if anybody buys toilet paper on Amazon, but
they do,
right?
They do.
All of a sudden, when you bounce out of there and go to Facebook, yeah, I do too. Yeah, but you bounce out of there and go somewhere else, all of a sudden you see toilet paper ads all over the place, right? The same thing can be done for employers and should be done. If you're not micro-targeting these folks and making it more of a personal experience for them, you're going to lose because it's easy to do now. And it is kind of a pay-to-play situation. There's software out there that can help you retarget those candidates. But there's got to be more to it, right? You have to get your employees talking about their awesome life at work and work at life, if you will. So that when people do actually go to check out the company sort of through the ad, they bounce through your campaign and actually get to where there's actual people doing the job. They have to see that these people are engaged and interested in work and actively sharing things online and feel like they want to work there and be able to opt in themselves better that way.
Yeah. So we're talking a lot about the online experience of a consumer candidate, a candidate consumer, and drawing a lot of those parallels. But employer brand applies everywhere. There's lots of ways to activate an employer brand. If I am a delivery driver for Frito-Lay, that might look a lot different for me. So let's break that down a little bit. First of all, because we're drawing a lot of parallels between just people and consumers and how we live our lives and where we spend time and what engages our attention and grabs our pocketbook, there are a lot of parallels. So who owns employer brand exactly? It seems like there would be a lot of tie-in, or perhaps should be, with consumer brand. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So it depends on the size of the organization, right? Here's what happened at first, right? We found that a lot of companies were saying, yeah, we need a better social media presence, or we need to do some, eventually they started calling it employer branding. And companies would basically take a coordinator or an admin, right? Just somebody that is fairly social and has a decent online personality, and say, okay, you're our branding person now. And so that's kind of old school. New school was companies actually started paying professionals to do some of that job. Some of it is now outsourced to marketing firms that are specific to the recruitment space. But some companies are building internal teams for it. The notion that it could or should be owned by corporate marketing, that's generally the cause, or there's a lot of turmoil there. Okay, when that happens, you're going to have managers saying that's a land grab. We don't want marketing taking over our employment brand because they're just going to spam people with jobs. And marketing doesn't necessarily do the best job of employer branding, right? So you have to have either a software partner or a services partner that knows what they're doing, can help you amplify things. And it really helps to have someone on your team on the inside who's really got their eye on the ball and drawing lines from marketing campaigns to butts in seats. How are we actually getting candidates to apply for jobs and have them be targeted enough that they're good enough candidates to actually get interviews? Beyond that, I think it's the hiring managers are, taking over from there. We can't control what they do. But if we can get enough candidates funneled into the right door at the right time that are good enough to actually get interviews, then that's absolutely a recruiting function, and that's where it should sit.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. There should be a consumer brand and an employer brand, and there probably should be some collaboration, but they are distinct, have their own use cases. But I will say what I love is when somebody comes from the consumer side, from the marketing side, into talent, into recruiting, and says, why are you guys not doing this? Because they get word of mouth marketing and influencer marketing and retargeting and personalization. These are not new concepts in consumer. So I totally agree, but I also love when somebody comes over with fresh eyes and says, we're a little bit behind the curve here in talent acquisition and employer branding.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's generally what has to happen. So occasionally, as with the case with CA, where I got to do a lot of fun stuff with a really great team, right? I had 6 marketing people globally on an amazing team of talent acquisition marketers, one of whom came over from the consumer side and said, wow, boy, there's a lot of parallels here in talent marketing and consumer marketing, and we could do all this really cool stuff. And that's what's sort of whiz-bang about the whole employment branding thing. We're just applying regular marketing terminology and ideas and strategies to recruitment. And that's what good recruiters have been doing for many years, but most companies don't get yet, unfortunately. But sometimes the employer branding team does such cool stuff and is so good at showcasing the company's culture that then corporate marketing comes and says, hey, you know what? We really like what you guys are doing in talent marketing. Can we collaborate and share and do some of that? And at CA, we had a lot of that. We had a lot of corporate marketing coming to us and saying, man, we love what you're doing. Let us help you. And so that's when we get better budgets and things like that.
So we're thinking of the spoiled organizations and TA departments that are able to have an EB strategist, a practitioner who can embrace this and build a strategy, activate, measure. That sounds like dreamland to some folks. You and I last week at eBrandCon in Chicago met Michelle, who's my new bestie, Michelle Falling, who is with an agri-science operation based here in my home state of Minnesota. 23 business.
They breed turkeys.
Yeah, exactly. We know a lot about this now. I love that she knows their operations. So she's in HR and recruiting, but she described to us so well their actual research operation. But that's the whole point. You have to embrace, know your story, tell your story. That's how you attract talent. But think about somebody like Michelle. Yeah, totally. But she's a team of 2 in this operation for all of HR. They don't have
all of recruiting in HR.
Everything. So how does somebody like Michelle, she was at the conference last week sorting this out, but how does somebody like Michelle embrace employer brand and then
So you have to get a partner at that point, right? You have to have a software or services partner. One of the things that we do at Allegis Global Solutions, so the entire talent team at CA, 100 plus people, is outsourced to Allegis RPO, right? And Allegis does that with 20 or so other companies as large or larger than CA, where we have people on premise and off premise all over the world doing the talent acquisition job, operations, et cetera, for them. We have at our center sort of this evil laboratory where myself and a bunch of really smart marketing professionals get to cook up all this cool stuff for all these customers. And so when we propose new business in an RFP situation, we build in the idea that that employer should hire someone or have someone on site that is their liaison slash employer brand person at whatever level that ends up being due to the client budget. I can't say. It'd be great if everybody could have somebody like you or me sitting on site, right? But not everybody can do that. So, but a person, right, should be involved, and they can come from basically any part of the organization, as long as they know the organization well enough, understand and love the culture, and are able to partner with whoever that services organization is that is cooking up some really cool things for them to do.
Yeah. And I should say, even big brands, I'm going to use GE. They get used a lot, but they're a great example. Big brand, everybody knows GE. Everybody maybe knows them and understands them in one way, and they've done a great job of transforming maybe our understanding of what they really have to offer and who they are as an employer and who might love to work for them. But they've got great examples, and Shonda gives one of them about big brand, big department, massive talent acquisition department.
Shoes.
Zero budget.
During budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so everybody needs to start somewhere, and somewhere it's starting small. And I love what she says, stories are free. And guess what else is free? Not technically free, but they're at your disposal. Employees.
That's right.
Storytellers. Stories and storytellers.
Yeah. And a lot of the things that I have always helped companies do don't cost a dime, right?
Right.
It's a mind shift. If you can actually wrap your brain around encouraging your employees to talk more online about a little bit about work, a little bit about their personal life, right? Share some stuff with us. And a little bit about maybe some content that we give you that may or may not be about the organization to post on a regular basis. If you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, we'll help you, Joe employee, build your network. And every once in a while, you can say, oh, and by the way, we're hiring, right? So we'll give you some really good stuff to post over and over and over again that is just career-centric, third-party content, how to do your job better, how to be more focused at work, how to find a job, how to write a resume, right? Great stuff that may or may not be about our company at all or written by our company. But every once in a while, some corporate content or, hey, we're hiring. And when employees start talking out there in the universe like this, all of a sudden the company's entire profile starts to raise up, right? Their reach and network expands exponentially quickly. And we proved that, right? We wrote the case study about it with Q Social, Symphony Talent at CA Technologies. And literally within weeks of turning it on, our reach had increased 3,000%. So that every once in a while, oh, by the way, we're hiring, that was kind of free noise and really amazingly effective.
And it's that whole concept of influencer marketing and word of mouth marketing. People are more trustworthy, more authentic, number one, and more trustworthy than brands. So when you put that content, whether it's branded content, hey, we're CA, we're hiring, or whether it's just job seeker tips and advice and pro tips, when it comes from a person in my network, it's more relevant. It feels more personal. It's more trustworthy to me than if CA Technologies pops into my feed every so often. I don't mind either, but guess what gets 5 to 8 times more click-through? It's the one
That's right.
person.
Yeah, people want to work with people, right? And they trust people way more than they trust branded content. And so it's fine to have your owned media channels, right? Your CA corporate or CA careers channels. Mm-hmm. Those are great. But they will only ever have so much reach because that's not the kind of content people who don't work there want to share with their networks. That makes sense? I mean, there's not a whole lot of good reason for people that don't work for you to share that stuff. And the way it really works well is when you share things that other people want to share. And the idea isn't necessarily even the content, it's that people are getting eyeballs on you, the person. And you, the person, work for ABC, the company, or right, whoever it is. Mm-hmm. And so the more people that they see out there working for ABC company, the more active ABC company appears, right? And that's the magic of social media.
So we're talking about employee advocacy, which is talent brand advocacy, sharing your employer brand for the sake of attracting talent, but employee advocacy, more generally speaking as well. And the thing I love about employee advocacy, it is an extension of employer brand. It's a way to activate employer brand and put it to life, put it in the hands of your employees as storytellers. But it plays again, and I this will loop back around, because as we move through this employee experience journey over the course of this series, part of that is talking about employee engagement. And advocacy is important. It helps attract talent. Once you're an employee, you become that storyteller. Advocacy helps drive employee engagement. It nurtures employee retention. If I'm an ambassador of my company, and I know it, and there's a sense of pride and ownership, and I share content with my networks, my personal and professional networks, and the two blend so often these days. I feel proud of the work I'm doing, the team that I'm on, the product or the service that we're creating. Believe me, I'm a much more engaged employee as an advocate, and I'm more retainable. And so it's a beautiful circle that,
That's
advocacy
right.
and engagement create. So it does start.
Well, and it's a much more transparent view of your company's culture too, right? So if you're talking about sort of where employer brand and consumer brand should meet, it's right there, right at that culture level, because culture is more important in selling a product in many cases than the product itself, right? If your company has a reputation of having a terrible culture or being an evil empire, you're going to lose some deals because of that. Absolutely, right? Or people are just going to look the other way. But if you've got a great culture and you've got a lot of employees that seem really fired up about working there, and it's a well-known thing that, man, that's not only a great place to work, but great people making great products and giving great service. Yeah, that's where consumer brand comes in and says, man, we love this. And your competitors can copy your product, your logo, your pricing structure, everything that you do. They can't copy your people, right? And that's your culture. So get them to talk, and you've got branding gold right there.
I co-presented, I really just introed Heather Polivka from United Health Group at HR Tech a couple of years ago. And we talked a lot about, in her session, she talked a lot about that transparency, the fact that everything is out there, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. So embrace it. And her number one, we talked about, Glassdoor or Indeed, the employer profiles, the reviews that are out there, similar to Amazon reviews. You're being reviewed as an employer, and that's good and bad. So what do you do to embrace that? And her number one concern is it accurate? If it's accurate and it's terrible, but it's accurate, hey, this is who we are, and it's a fit for you, or it's not, or we're looking to address this, or this is our culture. This is how we operate, and we want you to know that. We want you to make an informed, educated decision as a job seeker. That's far worse than us, putting lipstick on a pig and pretending it's not. That's not going to be a win for either of us. So that whole idea of embracing authenticity, making sure that the accurate story and the accurate picture is being painted, and then working with that, with your job seekers, being so critical.
If you can survey your employees honestly and get real good data back about what they like about their job and what they don't like, and highlight the stuff they do like on places like Glassdoor, and admit to the stuff they don't like and say, hey, we're working on this, you're a much better employer than 90% of your competitors right there. And it does help candidates have a better experience because they know what to expect, right? And you're not sort of hiding from the comments on Glassdoor and places like that. There are things you can do to influence better comments. I would never suggest buying comments or anything like that by giving spiffs. That's strictly against policy, by the way. But what you can do, encourage new employees who are fired up about working there to go leave a comment, right? And have exit interviews with employees and their hiring managers, where the hiring manager says, hey, thank you. We appreciate you. And, we're honestly trying to improve everything. And when you get settled somewhere, or call me and let's keep in touch because we may want you to come back here. Well, that person is probably going to have a better exit interview experience than most of the exit interviews people have. And they're not going to go torch you on Glassdoor immediately, right? So there are good ways to influence your employer brand in the review platforms that are out there that don't involve just gaming the system. It's just being smart as a business.
Yeah. And I think you made kind of another good point in there that employer brand is not just external facing, it's internal facing as well. Your
right.
employees need to be educated, and that message needs to be reinforced about the aspirational culture and employee value proposition that you're looking to build and to maintain and to nurture. They're a living, breathing part of that when they join. Hopefully it matches up with what they thought they were signing up for, but that doesn't stop upon hire.
No, you have to absolutely sell it internally. They're your first and best customer, right? Because that's the largest number of people in one place that are ever going to care about your brand on a day-to-day basis, right? Why would you ignore that? And so when they get that first package in the mail that says, hey, congratulations on your new pet, like we do at CA Technologies, that has a whole bunch of branded pet swag, right? Yeah. And you get a little card that says, hey, share your pics with us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook with hashtag #LifeAtCA. They feel like they're living the brand right there. They really feel like they like the organization at that point. And you're doing your job as an employer to make that dream come true, right? And they feel more excited about it because you're actually doing something active to get them involved and saying, hey, share with us and let's have that internal conversation that the outside world can see. So you do have to hold up your end of the bargain as an employer, but just get creative. That little campaign, our pet benefits campaign, costs us next to nothing, right? And it's just a happy thing to do. We do it with new children and we do it with summer vacation. Everybody gets a gift bag and a bundle of stuff that says, hey, share your vacation pics with us. Yeah.
I love that. I saw somewhere, I think I've seen it multiple times, that the content that people really want to see, what really resonates, if somebody's looking at you as a potential employer and at their workplace, they literally want to see where they're going to work. And I mean, their desk, their cubicle, they want to see the cafeteria, the parking lot. The
Number
gym.
one thing, yes.
Yeah, they just want to visualize it. So yeah, it doesn't take much. You don't have to be super sophisticated and elaborate with your content, but people are people and we're going to work together. We're going to do great things together. So they getting a sense of that, the fun, the familial, the fact that it is work. It's absolutely work, and it's going to be invigorating and stimulating and all of that. But there's a life component as well, and being able to visualize that.
I think it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has this fear of sitting alone in the cafeteria, right? I mean, at any work or conference event or anything, right? You want to feel like you're going to a place with your people, right? Your kind of folks that you can have lunch with or have a beer with or even just talk shop with. And so how are you ever going to do that if all the bit of culture that you see is manufactured by the marketing team and put on the website? It doesn't work like that. People want to see what's going on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, even on Facebook, in employees' lives. And to that end, everybody that works in your organization, most of them are on Facebook, and most of them are friends with or family with someone that might be your next best hire. You don't know. You just absolutely don't know. So encouraging that sort of sharing, right? And here's my life displayed. You don't have to share everything, and there's some guidance that you should give about that, right, to your employees. Use common sense as good guidance, right? But everyone should have 2 or 3 personal things that they feel comfortable sharing about on a regular basis, right? So you and I talk about this a lot. You've got your things, I've got my things, right? Most of them involve kids. Yeah. So that's fine. I'm comfortable with that. I just never name my kids online. They're number 1, 2, and 3 sons.
Where everybody could tell you my kids' names.
That's right.
To each their own. But so let me talk about that. A couple more things before we wrap up. I think this is fantastic. I had a great conversation with Jason Neva book recently about brand building, and the idea that it's really providing air cover at 50,000 feet. There's a lot of general awareness and education that needs to happen. It's all very lofty and very, very high level for the purpose of something, you know, whether it's garnering new business opportunities or making that hire for that critical role. But it's very high level. You have to be able to measure something to know that all of this, everything that we're talking about, developing an EVP, an employee value proposition, and executing on an employer brand and putting content out there, how do you know that it's the measurable business outcomes that I'm trying to drive to are being achieved? What do I care about in employer brand to measure and know that I'm doing the right thing?
So there are some things that you're going to do, like certain platforms that you're going to put some branding on, the Muse, places like that, that might not immediately be able to draw that ROI line to hires, right? Mm-hmm. That takes a while. It's brand building in a certain generational market, and you know, certain diversity categories. And so there are things in places like that where you don't get that sort of immediate bang for your buck, but you're driving an idea about your company in these places. And so certain parts of talent marketing are just branding. And you have to say that you're going to spend some money on branding for branding's sake. That's just going to happen. You choose your target areas, right? But other places, you can absolutely say, I can tie this campaign to these clicks, right? To this landing page, to retargeting this person with ads on these platforms, to actually taking an action, right? The call to action, apply here, join our talent community, whatever it is, you can track that. If you've got good software, you can track that from end to end. And how far did that person get in the job application process before they bounced out? Were you able to contact them again and get them back into the job application process? Were they a targeted enough candidate to actually get past the screeners and into an interview, right? And so that's my end game, right? I think the tracking is important, because if you ever want to spend any money on anything, you have to at least be able to pretend there's some ROI attached to it, right? Because that's how you get budget. So if you can say, here's my pie chart, here's the number of people that we reached, here's the number of people that clicked, here's the number of people that filled out an application, and here's the number of people that got interviews. Hired is different. Get people to the interview stage, and that's a convincing argument that they were good candidates.
Right. And not just get budget, by the way, but get more out of your budget. If you're not measuring anything, how in the world do you know what to stop, start, and keep doing? I want to know.
That's exactly right.
Engineers aren't on Instagram. Okay, good, done. I won't message them there. I won't try to find them there, but they are over here. Or, you know, I mean, if you don't know that, and
when you get really sophisticated, you're A/B testing everything, every image, every message, right? And you know which sectors of your purple squirrel universe audience that you're targeting are actually taking action on those things. And so you know very well exactly the types of things that work for you. And you should be doing that. I'd say at the very least, you need to be tracking what platforms get you the most activity that generate the path towards butts and seats. When you get better than that, sharing this kind of content with 3 faces actually work best in these kinds of posts on this platform to attract this audience. You get there and you're really cooking with gas.
Yeah. All right, one last question. This might be my favorite one, and I did tease it for you, so hopefully you've thought about it. Or you wouldn't even need to think about it. You probably know. Because you have the luxury of being both a practitioner and a consultant, a thought leader, speaker in this space, you see a lot of tech. You see a lot of solution providers, a lot of technologies, a lot of trends, some of which pan out and become mission critical and some don't. So right now there's a couple things that I'm thinking of top of mind that everybody's talking about. Everybody was talking about last year at HR Tech. Everybody's talking about it at every conference. Everybody's blogging about. I'll see where you go with this, but what do you think people are going to be talking about a year from now?
Mm-hmm. So A year from now, all this buzz that we've got about artificial intelligence and machine learning and chatbots, that's just going to be us doing business as usual, right? That's something that's going to make us more efficient, like any other tool that we use, like PowerPoint or whatever, right? A year from now, the conversation is going to be completely different, and it's going to be literally about the next phase of real marketing in the recruitment space. So it's not just writing better job descriptions, but having interactive job descriptions that are micro-targeted to exact candidates. So your job description changes based on the person who's clicking on it, right?
Yes.
That sort of thing is what I'm really looking forward to. And when it happens, and it's out there in the universe, I'm talking to people, I'm like, I want this, let's make it. Then we're going to be really on the next plane of personalization in recruitment.
I love it. You mean terrible job descriptions are going to go away finally?
Yeah, well, if you have the money to pay for the tools to help you do that, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just have to be really creative and spend a lot of time and sleepless nights like I do rewriting things.
Well, you know, back in my recruiting days, we treated job descriptions as marketing collateral. A job description is a marketing piece and should be treated as such. We just haven't made a lot of progress terribly fast on that front, unfortunately. But
back in my day, I was buying ads in the Sunday newspaper for job descriptions and want ads. So that's where I started.
Yeah. Well, Craig, thank you so much. I could not have been spoiled with a better first guest. Thank you for starting us off on the road to HR Tech. As I said, we're going through recruitment marketing, candidate management, and employee engagement as it relates to the whole employee experience journey. We had to start with employer branding, the tip top of the funnel. My next guest will be Chloe Raita, and we're going to break down employee advocacy in a little bit more detail because there's a lot there to think about, and she does a great job, like you did at CA. At Sodexo, they do a great job of really testing their approach and knowing what works. They've had different user types, not just in the talent organization, but other ambassadors who they've tagged, you know, to assist them. So it should be a great story.
She and I talk about it all the time. She's going to do great.
I know she will.
That'll be a good one. And then you've got Chris Hoyt coming up too, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, Chris, you know, I think I'm gonna ask that guy about. We're gonna talk more about the consumer candidate. He knows a little bit about candidate experience. So do you.
Thanks.
But I'm gonna pull all the knowledge out of his head about candidate experience, which should be more like a consumer experience, and all of the cool things you mentioned. Some of them, bots and AI and automation. It sounds so terrible, it sounds so cold, but guess what? Automation and technology can really help personalize the candidate experience by freeing up human beings to have real conversations and get out of task workflows and that kind of thing. So I think that's what I'll talk to that guy about. Yeah, we've got a good lineup.
I think that's going to be great.
Just gotten started.
Yeah, this is amazing. You're doing a great job. You plucked me right out of Recruit DC. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Falls Church, Virginia, and I'm about to go back downstairs to see the end of Matt Charney's closing keynote.
Oh my God, say hi, Matt.
I'm glad to be
Sorry,
here.
I'm missing it.
I'll
let you get back down there. Go, Matt. This is the whole idea, very interactive. This is just conversational. We're capturing it for everybody's benefit, but it's just one-on-one conversation, no script, no slides, just breaking down topics we're all thinking about and trying to solve for. So thanks again, Craig. Hello, Recruit DC.
Oh, this was fun. Thank you.
Charney and everybody. And have a great rest of the event. Thank you so much, Craig.